To understand relationships, I'm back in the report view and I'm still in our course project. So you can find this project also attached to this lecture in case you didn't follow along so far. And in this report view, so in this first option here, I'll now quickly create a visual. For this, we go to the visualizations area here, and I'll go with this stacked column chart here, and I'll put it right here and increase the size so we can position this, for example, here in the center, just as we want to. And in my project, I can now access our 4 different tables here in this fields column. Let's maybe quickly hide the filters here, not needed at the moment. And in this fields column, I can now open the fact population table here, and I could now add, for example, the year as an axis value. So this would be the x-axis down here. And now I'll add the population count as values, so as the underlying data that should be displayed. Now, we got an overview of the population for different years, so from 2010 up to 2040. And now you might say, well, this isn't too helpful for me. I would like to see the population development for the different age categories, so baby, child, and so on. Now, we can find this information in our dim age table. That's why we added these 3 different tables to be able to quickly identify specific descriptive information. So I'll go to the dim age table and here, for example, to the age category. I can now drag this into the legend area. So this will be additional information that should be added to our visual. And now we get an error. We can't display this visual because there is basically no connection between the information stored in the dim age table and the fact population table. We use the IDs, so here the age ID as primary key for the dim age table and the age ID in the fact population table as foreign key, but we only use this common column both tables have in common to be able to create the actual tables. But a connection between these 2 tables is not available. Therefore, we have no way to tell Power BI Desktop now that we want to display the population stored in the fact population table by the different age categories stored in the dim age table. For this, we need a so-called relationship. And the relationships can be added and found in the model view here. This is this 3rd option. So if we go to this menu, we can't see a thing, but that's just a display bug or a display issue, so to say, in Power BI Desktop. We can, for example, hide this properties menu and now scroll to the right. And there we can find our tables. So as I said, in case you can't find these, just scroll around a bit. And as you can see, you can now interact with these tables. So you could also collapse these or expand these. You can add the dim gender table here. You can find the dim region table over there. And also our fact population table over here. So therefore, I'll now rearrange these tables a bit, like this and like, well, that maybe. And as you can see, you basically have all the different table names and the corresponding fields that all different tables hold. Let's maybe make this gap a bit bigger here. Now, my problem is that I need to establish a connection between the fact population table and the dim age table. To do this, you can simply select the field that you want to interact with. So here, you now have to select the column or the field both tables have in common. So to say the primary key in the dim age table and the foreign key in the fact population table. And with that, you can establish that connection and enable the communication between these 2 tables. So you could now say, I need the age ID here. So I select this and hold the mouse key. And now I can drag this to the fields of the other table. Very important though, here I am hovering over the age ID field, which would be the correct one. But if I hover over the country ID or the gender ID, well, then this is also working. So if I would, for example, connect the age ID and the gender ID here, then you see that, well, we have this 1 and this asterisk here, and this arrow. So these are all things we'll explore step by step. But we have created something between these two tables. But if I now go back to my report view, I have information in here, but actually I have information for two categories only. Why is this happening? Well, because if I go back to my model view, we connected the age ID with the gender ID. And if we check the actual content of these different fields, so to say, here in our data view, we see that in the fact population table and there in the gender ID column, we have an ID of 1 and 2, so 1 male and female. And for my age ID here, so the age table age ID, I also have the ID 1, 2, and then also some other IDs. Therefore, we have a mismatch here. So based on our relationship here, we can find matching IDs, but only the ID 1 and 2. So here we match an age ID with a gender ID, which leads to this strange result here. Therefore, we have to be careful about which fields we connect here in our relationship. Therefore, back in the model view, we can now right-click onto this, connection arrow, so to say. It should be highlighted yellow, so right-click, and now simply delete it. Yes, we want to delete this relationship. With that, our visual here is back in the can't display the visual state. And back in the model view, I now take the age ID and connect the age ID of the dim age table with the age ID of the fact population table. Now we have the same state as before, so with this 1 and this asterisk and so on. But if I go back now, you see that I now have correctly visualized data. Now I have all my different age categories in here, and these are also displayed here in my visual. Now we established a connection between the dim age and the fact population table, and therefore we can now combine in our visual information stored in both of these tables. This only works though as we carefully created the dim age and the fact population table by matching the IDs, so the age ID, in both tables, and with that logic we can now display visuals with information retrieved from these two tables. If we go back to the model view though, we saw that if we right-click onto this, connecting arrow, so to say, right here, that we have the deletion option, but also properties. In this properties menu, you see that we can edit our existing relationships. So we could select a different table here, and then also select a different column. We could do the same thing down there, so this would also work. So with this, we can edit our relationship. We can also access this menu differently though. So if we cancel this, we can either click onto these right dots here in one of these tables and there go to Manage Relationships. Alternatively, this option can also be found here in the Home ribbon and there in the Manage Relationships option up here. So if we access this, we have the same menu. Here we see our current relationship that we have. So we have a connection between the fact population table and the dim age table. This from and to thing here will be covered a bit later. Down here we have 4 different options. We can either create a new relationship. We can auto-detect a relationship. You might remember that we unselected the automatic relationship detection option Power BI ships with when, diving into this course project. So as we saw it for the automatic data type detection, this is actually the same thing. So although we disabled it generally, you can auto-detect relationships here if you want to. You can delete relationships or you can edit relationships. And if I click onto this option, I'm again back in this edit relationship option we just had a look at. Now, here we can select the tables and the columns. We saw this already. But down here we have some more options. The cardinality, here many to one or this asterisk to one, which is the equivalent. And if we click onto this option, we have one to one, one to many, and many to many. We have the cross filter direction, single and both here. And we have this make this relationship active option. So let's have a closer look at these options now, and with that, also at relationships in general.